I'm Beverly, and I'm on the witness stand.
That's one way to hang a hose. Hey everybody, and welcome to my first video in this series about the Karen Reed trial. As you can tell, I am coming to you from the South, specifically North Carolina, and I'm on the front porch because I like to say I'm porching. Out here, you have my daughter, who you'll probably hear once in a while jump in on the case, and that's fine. And you also have my son-in-law out here who may offer some little tidbits as well, because as I've said before, this is just a discussion, and I'm going to give you my opinions. You have opinions, you can comment, and if you get hateful in the comments, then it's okay because I can just delete you. So I'm going to talk about the Karen Reed. There are so many trials right now. I'm going to have a little ditty about Diddy on another video, and then I'm going to just do a little highlight on a video about the lady who was the court. What was that lady? Court what? In the Murdoch trial? Court clerk. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in another one. We've got so much in Karen Reed that it's ridiculous. So what I've done is I've just made some highlights because I'm going to update you in case you've been under a rock and you don't know about this case. But I definitely follow all the cases all the time. And I've made notes, so I'm going to be referring back to my notes. This case has been going on a while, so if I was to give you a heads up on every single thing that has happened so far, we would be here for hours and hours. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit the highlights right now. And when I say the highlights, I'm talking about a few people, but also like the overall testimony around that point. And we'll delve into that deeper as we go. But sorry if I'm rocking and that bothers y'all, but I tend to do that. Anyway, so one of the first things I want to talk about is just kind of an overview about, what has been happening. Karen Reed had a boyfriend named John O'Keefe. There is a charge against her for second-degree murder and manslaughter, I think it was. And it came about because of a blizzardy night, drunken, infused party, so they say, and supposedly Karen Reed backing over her boyfriend and killing him. Now, I say that's very general, but there's a whole lot of moving parts to this. And I'm going to tell you right now, my jury, so to speak, is out. I think one day I got it all, I'm ready to convict, and then I'll hear something else and I'll go. So I'm just going to tell you, I can't rightly say that she's innocent. But what I can definitely say at this point is there's a lot of reasonable doubt. Okay. I really hit the highlights on what was going on, but we'll get into more of it. So the first thing that I think was a key witness is Dr. Wolf, who is a neurosurgeon. And I got notes prepared, so you're going to see me looking down at them. What he did was he testified that he thought that O'Keefe's injuries, which are probably, if you don't know, he was found in the front yard of another cop. O'Keefe was a cop in Boston. He was found in the front yard of another cop, Brian Albert, I think his name was. And he was completely covered in snow. So there's discussion about, was he hit by the car or was he beaten? He had a lot of injuries. So the defense is saying that he was beaten by somebody in the Albert house and then brought out there and left to die, or thinking that he was drunk, he'd get up and go somewhere or whatever. That's far reaching, I think. But so is her backing up. They had an argument. They think really hit him, but did she hit him enough to kill him? That's the thing there, because it appears that in order for her to hit him with the car and him be where he's at, he had to kind of fly through the air about 30 feet. Well, if he did that, you'd think there'd be a lot more damage on her car, but it's not. It's just a tail light. And if she hit him like that with the car and he goes flying 30 feet, then I don't know how he got the crap beat out of him on the front. I would have thought you'd have to run over him a few times to have that many injuries, but that's me. Anyway, this Dr. Wolf is saying that his injuries on his head were consistent with falling backwards on frozen ground, which then got them to bringing in a meteorologist who said, talked about the weather conditions and how frozen the ground was that night. Guys, they were getting a blizzard. It was like a huge blizzard. It hadn't started apparently, or it's just a dusting when this happened. But look, if you're getting ready to get a blizzard in Boston, or right outside of Boston, you can pretty much guarantee it was cold, and the ground was probably cold. So anyway, this neurosurgeon thinks that he fell backwards and then he died from hypothermia. I don't know, maybe. Let's just go ahead and see. Then we've got Jennifer McCabe. Jennifer McCabe is the sister-in-law to Brian Albert, who owns the house, whose yard that John was found in. Does that make sense? So McCabe is a, I don't want to say a friend of Karen Reed, but they all, it's a convoluted mess. They're all related or have, some kind, they're acquaintances, friends, whatever. Everybody is, except maybe the weatherman. Anyway, she testified that when John was found that morning, that Karen Reed said, I hit him. She specifically said, I hit him 3 times. I don't know why that's important. One time would do you. But then later on, they're coming back and it was, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. You see why this doesn't make sense. It's not even relevant. Let's take this out, because prosecution, if you are basing this case on the fact that she said, I hit him and nothing else, well, gavel down, you've lost. Okay. So hit him just doesn't work. But she did, I think she testified for about 3 days, and she did give inconsistencies. Now, this is the retrial. So we already had a hung jury on the first trial, and they immediately retried her again. And so there's been some differences. Some of the witnesses have said on the stand, my memory is as good as it was back in 22, which is when the crime happened. That isn't true. Nobody can say that. I mean, I know you can have a horrific event and you remember a lot of details, but you're going to forget some of those details too. And then over time, you're going to forget them, even if it's something that you witnessed that's just really terrible. Your memory's going to block some out. So I think it would have been better to say, as my memory serves me today, and just be honest that, time has elapsed. But she kept saying she knew exactly what she was talking about, but she directly opposed some of her testimony in the first trial, which just be real about it. Then you've got Shannon Burgess, a digital forensics expert. Shannon is my daughter, not this one though, just kidding. This one is a male. And so he was one that analyzed data from the SUV, Karen's SUV, and John O'Keefe's phone. Okay, if you watch this, my God, you had to take some Tylenol afterward. Maybe something a little stronger, but it was so complicated, and I just don't think it had to be that much. I didn't get anything out of it. I really didn't. There was something about 20 or 30 seconds that was different times that the phone and the SUV didn't sync or whatever. But look, I think the biggest thing you can take from this guy, he lied about his education on his CVs. He had multiple CVs, and they were all different. He said he had a BS in mathematics and something else, which, is really smart. You had to be really smart to do this, to have that kind of degree. Anyway, he had all these degrees that he didn't have, had all this training he didn't have. What it boils down to is he had a high school diploma, and I think he might have had an associate's, not 100% sure, but he said he was working on his bachelor's, but they looked and found he'd been working on his bachelor's for 17 years. So that discredited him a little bit. He would have just been better off just to say, I have a high school degree, or he could have said he had an associate's, whatever he had, but I have on-the-job training and I know what I'm doing. That would have been better for him. But the big thing that he did was he wrote a report for the trial. And as the trial was progressing, he went back and changed the report. You can't do that. That takes away every bit of credibility you have. You don't update your report in the middle of trial. You just don't do that. I mean, now you've just introduced so much bias and, I mean, take you off the stand. Prosecution. And we're in the prosecution's case right now. So this is a prosecution witness. When you bring a witness on the stand, yes, you have to accept the fact that the defense is going to come after them. And you need to be prepared for that. But Jesus, if it's your witness, you need to know what they're going to say. You need to know what they did and how to explain it. And you better hope that they are for you. This one wasn't, Mr. Prosecutor. So, yeah, he did nothing whatsoever to help himself. Because I don't know if you can actually do something about that. You know, I don't know if they could come back, because I don't know that would be perjury, but I just kind of believe that there could be something. I don't know. When I saw it, I was like, oh, every time he said something, I was like, my God, I can't believe he just said that. Anyway, so that's him. I know this probably sounds to you guys, if you've never watched any of this trial, like I am going from here to there to here, but that's the way my brain thinks. And that's kind of what I want you guys to do, is just talk to me like your brain thinks. I love when you say stuff like, I don't think that, here's an idea I had. I mean, it's all those ideas that's gonna make or break the case, right? Okay, so then they had paramedics and firefighters that came up. That was a lot of testimony. And they all differ in what they say. A lot of them said they heard her say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. But then there's just as many that come back and say, she said, I could have hit him, did I hit him, you know, and so on. So I just kind of think that, like I said before, that testimony needs to just go away, because that's not, I wouldn't make or break her based on that. I wouldn't do it. But there were a lot of conflicts of interest in this case with the cops, because John O'Keefe was a Boston cop. He died in the yard of a Boston cop. All of these people, well, not all of them, but a lot of the people that came to investigate were cops and knew him. One of the biggest, the lead cop, was a guy named Proctor, and Trooper Michael Proctor. Oh my God, I cannot wait for him to come back and do testimony in the second trial. Y'all, he had testimony that I can't even go there. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I felt like I was watching part of the Diddy trial. He had so many things wrong with him. But when they did their investigations, you're going to hear cars go by. When they did their investigations, they used all these not so routine protocol to find out what was underneath the snow. One of the cops, he got a leaf blower. That's right. He got a leaf blower, and he blew the snow away little bit by little bit to see what was underneath there. He says he found some little red dots in the snow. He collected those, but he didn't have any collection bags or the cups or anything. So he went, I don't know, a few houses down to another cop. I think he did investigations for homicide, but he wasn't on call that night. And they didn't have anything but some red Solo cups. So he went and collected these blood droplets, which I think turned out to be blood, and he put them in red Solo cups. And then he put them in his car. You know, this is one of those, I just can't even believe it. If you follow crime, true crime, and cop shows and investigation, like 48 Hours and the first 48 is really good, because you find out all this stuff. You find out everything you need to not do or to do in a crime. But there's a thing called chain of command. There's no way you can keep chain of command if you put your evidence in an open red Solo cup and put it in a car. I guess the blood was frozen, and of course it's going to melt in the car, but then things can fall into it, so it's contaminated. And you bring it into police station, and you've got these open cups. They're contaminated. There is no markings for you to sign off on these. So what happens is you mark them, you label them, and then you take them to somebody, which they should be bagged or, in containers, and then you hand it to somebody and they take it and they sign off saying that they've received it. And you shouldn't have your seal or your lid or whatever broken until that person is going to do the investigative part, like the forensic. We got a slow rider coming by. So when they open it, they have to sign off saying that they broke that seal or whatever. None of that happens. So you know what? Throw it away. There's no reason to have it. It's not evidence at this point. Now, they may think it's evidence, but it's not. And, the jury is smart enough to figure out that that's not evidence. You're not going to be able to do anything with that because it's contaminated. So I feel like your physical evidence is not really convicting her at this point, okay? Maybe they'll have something else, but we're getting wind that the prosecution is about done and over with their case. So if that's true, there are so many people that they haven't called and they should have called that I think would have boosted their case, but they haven't called them. So I don't know what they're doing. This is their case to lose. That's all I have to say. And then you've got Proctor, which they have not called, which I understand they don't want to call him, but you better believe the defense is going to call him. He took her phone. He took Karen Reed's phone that night, and they were, they had a court order and they were looking through it. And while they were looking through it, he got on a chat with a bunch of his high school buddies and some of his supervisors. That's important. And he started making comments about Karen Reed. And the other guys were chiming in. I can't really repeat. I don't want to repeat. There might be a time when I do repeat it, but because I'm not going to say I won't ever. But he called her the C word, said she had no booty, but he didn't use that word. He made a lot of vile comments about her body. And some of his friends were saying, have you found any nudes? And he said, not yet. And one of his supervisors liked it. So we found out later that one of his supervisors that testified it was a you-know-what show, lost 5 vacation days. That was his punishment, 5 vacation days. And you know what? Just what happened with that trooper, for me, taints the whole investigation. And I know maybe as a woman, I'm biased about it, but I don't think anybody, man or woman, could find those comments back and forth on that text thread anything but vile, just vile. So as last we left off, it was I think the last thing that we saw was that neurosurgeon and I think that was it. A forensic analyst. Her name was Christina Hanley. She testified that some plastic fragments that was in O'Keefe's clothing matched Karen Reed's or materials from her SUV, but there was a broken glass, cocktail glass, that was found there too, which they've not really been able to say how that got there. They said that it did not definitively connect to her vehicle. So as you can see, we haven't got to the defense, and I'm telling you, when the defense starts their case, this is going to be something. I'm going to be honest with you that the prosecution's case has not been that strong so far. So anyway, I know that was not, like I've said before, it was convoluted, and I know that didn't hit all the highlights, but it did hit the gist of the testimony so far. We'll do more about the actual crime, so to speak, and try to fill you in, especially if you don't know anything about the case. But what I plan to do here in these videos is to maybe give you, I'd kind of like to come in on Wednesday and Saturdays maybe. We'll see. We'll play it by ear because this is the first one, because I don't want you to miss anything. So I don't know, if we come in on Monday and something big happens, I'll probably jump in and just jump on and tell you, all right, let me tell you what happened in court today. I might do that. We're going to play it by ear, but I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, it's not official. I'm not a lawyer, not an attorney. And just because my name is Beverly does not mean I'm the judge. And for those of you who don't know, the judge's name is Beverly Canoni, I think it is. Anyway, so yeah, I just hope you enjoy it and you just want to listen and want to have a conversation back and forth. I love discussions because nobody in my life loves courts, trial engagement, and true crime as much as I do. And I just love talking about it. So I'm pretty sure there's some like-minded individuals out there that can come with me and let's investigate and have conversations. Till next time, you're able to step off the witness stand. Okay, Shannon, I'm really going to stop. I guess I can turn it off.
I'm Beverly, and I'm on the witness stand.